Welcome back to the Sam JW channel. The transfer window has officially closed and we're going to go through each and every bit of Oxford United's summer transfer window to see if Ed Waldron and Des Buckingham have fully prepared this squad for the Championship. So you can see we've got the list here. It's not in the exact order they arrived on Transfer Market, but we're going to go through it. We're starting, of course, with Peter Kiosa. He arrived from Rotherham for a believed fee of about £600,000. Look, Kiosa was fantastic in League One last campaign. In the first half of the campaign when he was with Peterborough, he was superb. He was their captain. He looked amazing. He was that part of that incredible team that I thought were going to go on and win the league. But of course, he got recalled in January by Rotherham and didn't have the best of times. Rotherham fans don't like him, and to be honest, if I was him and Steve Evans came into the job, I wouldn't want to come and work with him. He started. Some fans think he started really badly. I think he started kind of a bit shaky. It's very much, I compare it to the way we had last season's fullbacks. We had, at left back, we had Greg Lee and Joe Bennett. Bennett is better defensively than Greg Lee, but Greg is better in the attacking sense. And I think it's a similar thing as we've got with the right backs now. Look, Head Turves, we haven't seen much of him, but if it's, for example, Sam Long and Peter Kiosa competing for that right back spot, I think it's pretty much the same thing. Long's better defensively, Kiosa's better attacking. Look, he's had really shaky moments so far this campaign, but I don't think he's looked absolutely awful. So there's, we're only 4 games in for crying out loud to the Championship season, so let's give him a bit more of a chance, guys. Next one on the list is the arrival of Jack Curry. He came in from Wimbledon for a fee of £400,000. Obviously, he then went back out on loan to Leyton Orient. And given what we've seen with the squad confirmation yesterday, that doesn't look like the smartest of decisions by the club, given Joe Bennett is now out until at least January. But Ed Waldron did confirm in an interview with the Dub that he has that the club have a recall clause in Jack Curry's contract, in his loan contract with Leyton Orient. So they can bring him back in January. I think that's more than likely going to happen, especially if he gets some proper good game time. Jack Curry, look, he's a phenomenally talented young right back. Wimbledon rated him highly. A lot of praise for his defensive nous, for he described himself as a bit of an old-fashioned left back, and 22 years old, a hell of a lot of potential, a lot of sell-on value as well if he's able to get up to that level. Jack Curry could look like a really smart signing from Des Buckingham and Ed Waldron. Obviously, first half of the campaign he's going to be spending at Leyton Orient on loan. And from what I've read, he didn't start amazingly in his first appearance for the O's, but obviously another 5 months to go until the January transfer window. The next one is Idris El Mazouni. He comes in from Ipswich Town, newly promoted Ipswich Town in the Premier League, for £400,000. This is an absolute steal in my opinion. 400k. He's looked absolutely sensational so far with the small bits we've seen. Just his technique on the ball, the way he moves, he looks like a phenomenal player. Again, in his interview with the Dub BBC Radio Oxford United podcast, Ed Waldron was saying that the scouts and he and the coaching staff see Idris El Mazouni incredibly highly. He could be a player that, again, massive sell-on value, only 23 years old. And, he's had really good performances with Leyton Orient in League 2 and then League 1. And to get him for 400k again from Premier League Ipswich Town, he's looking like a very, very capable Championship midfielder already. The next one is Louis Sibley, who comes in on a free transfer from Derby County. A very interesting situation this, of course, because, he's a Derby boy, born in Burton, but come through Derby's academy. In his youth was higher praise than Jude Bellingham, believe it or not. But Paul Warne stuck him out to left wing back last campaign, and he struggled, understandably, given he's a number 10 who's being forced in a position he's got no idea how to play. So he did struggle. We've seen so far he's had a few appearances. I thought in the Coventry AFL Cup game he looked really good, especially in that first half. Good silky close control, and he looked like a really good player. It's going to be interesting to see how Des uses him, because he has deployed him out on the wing at certain times in pre-season and in the one or two small appearances he had, especially against Peterborough in the Cup. But Sibley, you know, another very talented young player, only 22 years old, another of that young group that we've got here at Oxford United. And, you know, the fact, again, we've got him free from a promotion rival, or from a newly promoted rival, I should say. And, like I say, I mean, if you look at the story of how this transfer came about, it's believed that Derby County offered Louis Sibley less than he was already on as a contract renewal, and he obviously said, you know, I'm not going to do that, and also wanted assurances that he'd be played in the number 10 position. Didn't get that, so he's come to OX4. Hid Vest even, is the next one. We have no idea. We haven't seen him play yet. Obviously, he's a very experienced Dutch right back who's played a lot of games in the Eredivisie for FC Utrecht. Also played a season in Serie A for Udinese. A lot of experience, and a 27-year-old Dutch right back. But we haven't seen anything from him yet in an Oxford shirt, so still yet to be seen, though I've got a feeling he might start against Stoke after the international break. The next one is Shemi Placheta. We might wonder why I'm saying Shemi, because I believe his name is meant to be Przemysław Placheta. We're not going to be able to say that constantly on the terraces, so we're just going to call him, we and the club have just called him Shemi. The thing about Shemi Placheta is, I thought against Norwich, he looked really good. He looked really direct. Obviously, he's got that immense pace. Obviously, lack of end product. You know, we knew that when he was coming in from Swansea. But what I'll say is that, you know, Des has this magic when it comes to wingers. We've seen it with Josh Murphy, Owen Dale, and I think he's going to be able to do the same with Shemi Placheta. He obviously had that wild moment where he kind of flung out at a Coventry player in the 3-2 loss. Got very lucky not to get sent off in that game, and then got injured against Blackburn. But he's been registered in the squad for the first half of the campaign, which means he is going to be able to feature. Which with his injury record was a bit of a concern, I have to say. The next, Jamie Cumming, coming in from Chelsea on a free transfer. Welcome back, Super Jamie, coming in goal. Look, Jamie was absolutely phenomenal in the second half of the campaign. It's really interesting the way you see both him and Joe Bennett last campaign. You know, they didn't have a pre-season, so they didn't have those games to kind of get ready. So they were both a bit shaky in their first few appearances. Jamie Cumming more so than Joe Bennett, but he really grew into, obviously, that phenomenal performance against Peterborough in the first and second leg especially. Of course, he made some superb saves, and he started the campaign as he needs to go on. Norwich game was a little bit like that of the playoff final against Bolton. Didn't have a lot to do, but he did bury. He did dig Sam Long out of a hole that he'd dug for himself a bit when a header comes backwards, and he managed to tip it away from the Norwich attacker. Coventry, 3 or 4 absolutely phenomenal saves from Jamie Cumming, and he's really unfortunate that, and one of our other new signings inadvertently gave the ball away. But obviously super happy with the return of Jamie Cumming. You know, free transfer, 24-year-old goalkeeper. It's going to be really exciting to see him again develop further in the Championship, as we saw he did at the back half of last season in League One. Speaking of the man who gave away that late goal at Coventry, Will Volks. Look, this was the first signing of the window. This was the first confirmed deal, and it was a hell of a coup. You know, this is a lad that had been phenomenal for Sheffield Wednesday. Was, some are considering their Player of the Year last year. Obviously, very experienced at this level. And like I said, the fact we got him on a free transfer is a superb bit of business. Very interesting, some of his comments when signing for Oxford, implying that he didn't think that Sheffield Wednesday were going in the right direction for his liking. Obviously we'll see for the course of the season how that ends up. Obviously Sheffield Wednesday started with an amazing 4-0 win against Plymouth, but then didn't look particularly good in the games after that. So like I say, we'll see how they get on. But, Will Volks, a phenomenal signing for Oxford United. It's really unlucky with Will because, look, against Norwich he looked fantastic, allowing Brannigan to make those more advanced runs, allowing him to get that goal. That's exactly the kind of player we've been asking for. Against Coventry, again, another really good performance, just let down by the fact that he obviously gives away, it's a slack back pass which has got onto by, I believe it's Hadji Wright, and he slots it in to give Coventry all 3 points. Look, we're not gonna take that out on Will. It was a bad mistake. He knows it was a bad mistake, and to a certain degree, I'm a little glad it was Will Vaulks and not a less experienced player in the Championship, because that might have knocked their confidence. I thought he looked okay against Blackburn. Obviously, he was then dropped for Josh McEachran for the Preston game, but still a handful of very good performances in the first bit of the campaign for Will Vaulks, and is already looking like a very, very smart signing from Ed Waldron and Des Buckingham. Matt Phillips is the next one. Matt Phillips, again, super interesting. 33-year-old, another really experienced player, not just in the Championship, but in the Premier League. A local boy, an Aylesbury lad, went to school with Rob Hall. So there's obviously a bit of a local connection there, like there is with another one of the more senior signings that we've made. Matt Phillips is, again, like I say, an interesting one because he has played a bit part role. He started, of course, against Blackburn and Preston, got the assist for Mark Harris's absolute wonder goal, and then gets injured in, I believe it was the 35th or 40th minute of the Preston game, and is taken out of that game and replaced by another one of our new signings. Another free transfer, another experienced body that I don't think is going to get an awful lot of game time. Obviously, it will depend how this injury is. But it's going to be important to have those experienced men that you can bring off the bench to impact the last kind of 10-15 minutes of a game. I think those kind of 2 appearances will just get a bit more game time in his legs. But again, really happy with Matt Phillips. Like I said, nice to have an experienced lad around the dressing room, especially for some of the younger wingers we've got around the club. Another free transfer, we did a lot of free transfers obviously, was that of Marcelino Ferdinand. Now, this is a really interesting one. Indonesian international, like a star of that national team. He is like seen as, obviously this phrase gets thrown around quite a lot, but the Indonesian Messi, from clips and highlights we've seen, he looked very talented. Only 19 years of age, played a handful of games, went out in Belgium last campaign in the 2nd division. The most important thing that makes Marcelino's transfer interesting is obviously we've got Indonesian owners and the level of interest he's brought to Oxford United. Our followers on Instagram have gone up like 100k, I think, because he's got like 4 million followers on Instagram. It's a weird one. Suffice to say, it's going to be a superb commercial decision for the football club. I mean, from what we've heard from kind of those around the training ground, he is a phenomenal talent. Like, some of the coaches I know that I've spoken to about kind of what's Marcelino Ferdinand like, they've told me the guy's a joke. The guy's incredible on the ball. He's ridiculous, which bodes really well. And having a bit of a marketing machine in your attack ain't always a bad thing for a football club, especially for one of our size. We're not the smallest club. We're one of, I'd say, kind of maybe the 5 smallest clubs in the division. So a really smart free sign, and again, this was an interesting one because, like I say, it had been linked for, I think, the end of June is when I saw an Indonesian Oxford fan account first linked to him. So the fact it finally came off was a bit of a relief, because I was like, is this going anywhere, or is it just Indonesian papers making up stuff, given we've got Indonesian owners? Jacob Knightbridge is the only signing I'd say technically counts, because he's been sent out on loan to Braintree. Look, Jacob Knightbridge obviously looked okay against Oxford City when he played. What I will say, though, is that, again, another young, promising player, 20 years of age, from West Ham's academy. Look, it's going to be at least another season before we maybe get any sight of Jacob Knightbridge, maybe even longer than that. He's fully aware, he spoke in his interview when he came in, that he's going to get loaned out, that it's a development signing this one, but, could be a promising one in the future. Then we're going to skip over the man on transfer mark that is below Jacob Knightbridge, because we want to talk about another goalkeeper, Matt Ingram, coming from Hull City. Another semi-local lad, Wycombe born and bred, came through their academy, played a season on loan at Oxford City. Again, that's the one I was talking about in terms of a little bit of a local connection, because Tyler Gudrun's from High Wycombe. It's a bit close. Matt Ingram seems to have very, very good goalkeeping ability. He made some really good saves in the EFL Cup games he featured in. Obviously unlucky with the deflection off Peter Chioso for the one that eliminated from the EFL Cup. But Matt Ingram looks really promising. Some proper competition for Jamie Cumming, because all due respect to Simon Eastwood, the guy's an Oxford hero. He's not up to the standard of the Championship at this point in his career. But Matt Ingram, we believe it's a fee of about £600,000, which is a lot for a backup goalkeeper. But if he's going to provide that competition for Jamie Cumming, fantastic. And like I say, it's good to have that, because we were obviously lacking it last summer. We had James Beeler, then with Jamie Cumming, and then behind them was Simon Eastwood. That was it. Loan signing of Dane Scarlett is the next one. Dane Scarlett, again, is another. He was in the kind of Troy Parrott category of Spurs young strikers that people thought were going to be, competing for Harry Kane's spots in that Spurs team. Hasn't been absolutely prolific in any of his loans. He was obviously at Ipswich for the first half of last season. He was at Portsmouth the season before. Didn't pull up trees. But there's clearly something about him if Oxford have brought him in, And again, referring back to that interview Ed Waldron did on the Dub, if you're expecting a 19-year-old to, be able to perform game in, game out at Fratton Park, and with a big weight of the size of the football club that Portsmouth are, there's no doubt Portsmouth are a bigger football club than we are. To have that kind of weight on a 19-year-old loanee is a lot of pressure. So I'm hoping this can be his breakout loan. Look, the lad hasn't looked amazing in his handful of minutes that he's played, but thankfully we're only a couple of games in. There's still time. The next one is Malcolm Eboué from Crystal Palace on loan. Now, Malcolm Eboué, this is a lad I'm really excited for. He looks so fun on the ball. The Peterborough game where he came on and featured. The Coventry game where he featured. Obviously both in the Cup. He looked really exciting. Plays to that freedom that a lot of Crystal Palace wingers play with, where they've got the freedom to express themselves, to be creative, to take on their man with a couple of silky moves. Look, he's not played any league matches, any significant league time, I should say, at this point. But Malcolm Eboué, I'm very excited by this. There's a reason that Man United were linked to him as a youth signing last season. He's had a lot of interest. Obviously, looked really good for Derby in his loan spell there. Didn't have as much like in Belgium last season. But, a fresh start at Oxford United in a loan deal. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Malcolm Eboué. Next one, we'll go to the final two, which happened on deadline day. Those being the arrivals of Ben Nelson, centre-back from Leicester City. Really promising young kid. 20 years of age. Played literally a handful of appearances last season for Leicester. But looked good. From what I've seen, and either foot, he can play at left and right side of the defence. And the thing is, this is a lad that Leicester fans wanted to keep around to kind of give more of a chance. We've got him in on loan. Obviously, a highly rated Championship defender. Had a good time in his two loans season before last. So very promising young centre back, and it's good. We've got more defensive cover. And the final one we're going to talk about is the signing of Siriki Dembele from Birmingham City for a fee believed to be just under £1 million, which makes Siriki Dembele our record signing. And again, he's played not a lot of football. Came on for about 55 minutes against Preston, and like with some of the other players we've only seen a small amount of, I really like the look of him. Obviously, we'll get on to the departures and the man he replaced, even taking his shirt number. But Siriki Dembele, there's so much that you can see. There's so much dynamism in there. His electric pace, loves cutting in on that right hand side. And again, we talked about what Des Buckingham was able to do with his wingers, what he'd done with Josh Murphy, what he did with Owen Dale. Siriki Dembele is another that is, in the latter stages, or in towards his prime. Bit of working with Des Buckingham, and we could see a really special player, and obviously a lot of pressure on him being a club record signing, but I think he's got what it takes to really live up to that price tag. In terms of the other outgoings, of course, Josh Murphy left on a free transfer for Portsmouth. Gutted that he left, because obviously, he said himself he wanted to stay at Oxford. We loved him. His 4 months from like February, March to the Wembley final was incredible. The turnaround, given this was a player we hadn't really seen turn up in an Oxford shirt in his first 18 months at the club. Gutted that he's gone. Obviously, there's reasons for why he's gone. Young family. It's believed that his other half is from Portsmouth, so family around there. Obviously, also the wage packet. It's believed that not only the amount, it was going to be our one of our highest paid players if he'd stayed, but he's even on an even higher wage at Portsmouth reportedly, and on top of that, more importantly for Josh Murphy, at least reportedly to be believed, the length of contract. Oxford were believed to be offering him 2 years with an option of a third. Just given his injury history, given the fact that he'd only really shown up for 4 months out of 4 months out of the prior 18 he'd been with the football club. Look, I love Josh Murphy. He's given me one of my favourite times as an Oxford fan. But if the price, if the wage packet, if the length of contract weren't right, then, go on to Portsmouth. Just please don't turn up against Oxford when we come to Fratton Park, or when Portsmouth come to Grenoble Road. But good luck, Josh. It's like I said, it's heartbreaking that he's gone, but no ill feelings towards him. I completely understand why he's gone to Portsmouth. It's just one of those things in football. We can't exactly complain when we've taken Louis Sibley from Derby, can we? Other outgoings: Steve Seddon, Billy Bowden, Marcus Brown, and James Henry all left on free transfers. Of them, the only one I'm a little bit sad to go is maybe Billy Bowden. Because Billy, he was a hard-working lad. Given that he made over 100 appearances and he was born up the A420, it's pretty good. Obviously, didn't have a massive impact towards the back end of the season. Wasn't given a lot of minutes by Des. It's sad to see him go, but I understand that. Obviously, we need to bring in players that are of Championship level, and I think Billy Bowden is like top-end League One level. At the moment. Marcus Brown, he's gone because he's just, the lad can't get any luck with injuries at the minute. He didn't look really the same player since the injury at Barnsley, and he had that little comeback in the FA Cup and then had to go off again. It's really upsetting, but we for too long have had this mindset of just signing players with dodgy injury records. And obviously we've signed Shemi Plaheta, we've obviously kept Kyle Edwards on a long term or on a short term contract. Kyle Edwards, it was his first major injury last season, so I'm not going to hold that against him. Obviously Will Goodwin has struggled, but Marcus Brown's just had so many injuries. He's a holder from the Carl Robinson era, where we just signed players that had shocking injury records but were good in the Championship or the Premier League a couple of years ago. James Henry, It's believed the club wanted to keep him, but he wanted to play football. It's believed that the club's offer to James was, you're a player coach, and he wanted to continue playing football, but he'll probably come back as a coach at some point, because everyone loves the GOAT James Henry. In terms of actual money transfers, Marcus McGuane and Oisin Smith have gone out on permanent deals. Oisin Smith, I'm a little bit gutted, because that goal against Charlton was absolutely sensational, and given he was a central midfielder, I thought he operated a right back really well when he was asked to by Des. But I can 100% understand. It's believed the fee's kind of just under 200,000. And again, he's a player who didn't get much of a chance under the man that signed him, Carl Robinson. Manning gave him the odd opportunity, and then Des kind of obviously chucked him in at right back. So not a massive opportunity he was given at Oxford United, but good luck, Oisin Smith. The other man that's gone is Marcus McGuane to Bristol City. Right, so let's talk about this one, because there's two aspects to it. The one part is, can we stop selling people to Bristol City? We're in the same league as them, and we keep selling them people. Obviously, if you look at, I think it was since, 16-17 when they took Callum O'Dowda. They've taken Callum O'Dowda, Mark Sykes, Rob Atkinson, Liam Manning, Chris Hogg, James Krause, obviously starved last season when they nicked him, and now Marcus McGuane. And they've also brought in Luke McNally and Rob Dickey. We could genuinely be in a circumstance where when we play them at Ashton Gate in a couple of weeks, their back three is Rob Dickey, Rob Atkinson and Luke McNally, with Marcus McGuane and Mark Sykes in midfield. Your entire defence and your two centre midfielders built by Oxford United, and then your manager is also, you nicked him from Oxford, and the assistant manager and the analyst. Get some other ideas, Bristol City, instead of always coming to Oxford to solve your problems. However, on the flip side, this is one that I saw coming at the beginning of the transfer window. The club activated a extension in his deal. The club could action a 1-year extension in his contract, as it was clear that there was no headway being made in contract negotiations with Marcus McGuane. So it's very understandable that they've gone, look, renew his contract, activate that clause, then we can sell him for a fee. I believe the fee is reported to be about £400,000. It's fine. It's more than we would have got if if we hadn't activated the clause, I'll be honest. Look, the thing about Marcus McGuane is, and I've said this to a couple of Bristol City fans that have asked, the thing about McGuane is, when the club is performing really well, he is dynamite. He's untouchable. He's one of the best players in the league. But there's so many periods when the fixtures are tough, he will vanish. He was looking at the best player in League One at the start of last season under Liam Manning. And even under Des, he looked pretty decent in Des's first few games. Then the fixtures got tough, and he vanished. He's one of those midfielders. He very much his form goes with the club's form. So, whether he'll get a lot of game time, whether it's just a squad option for Liam Manning, we'll wait to see. And we expected this one to happen. One that didn't happen was obviously Jordan Thornley. There's a reason for it, we've heard. It's been revealed that he is injured. He's picked up a knock, which is why he wasn't involved on the bench for the Preston game. Look, I expected him to go as well, just because, he started his Oxford career okay, and then it all went downhill. I think it was from the Peterborough game. Was it the Peterborough game? It was one of the games in the kind of December period where we realised this guy doesn't look good, which is a shame. I'm hoping he's going to get a proper chance under Des, because we've seen in the Championship as a defender. Last season with Blackpool he was really good, and then he came to us on a free transfer. I'm like, oh my god, we've got a fucking steal, but he just didn't look up to it. So we'll see if he gets over that injury, and we'll see what happens in January with Jordan Thornley. Couple loans, as we mentioned, Jack Curry to Leyton Orient. Gatlin O'Donga has gone out on loan to Bristol Rovers. That is much higher than I thought, given he played 13 games, got 5 goals for Barnet last season. I I thought like League Two was as high as he'd go, but Bristol Rovers had come in for him. Look, he came off the bench and, from what I can tell, didn't do an awful lot at the weekend. But the thing about Gatland Odonka is he will work his arse off. I know people criticise his work ethic, but I think, you know, he's one of the best players, and this is going to sound hyperbolic, he's one of the best players I've seen at being able to hold up the ball and hold off a man. I mean, you just need to look at, obviously he came on for a couple of minutes against Norwich and held the ball up really well. I always think back to the game where Portsmouth came to Grenoble Road, the 2-2 draw. He had a couple of really good opportunities. Rafa-Ian Raggett really struggled with Gatland Odonka. He's got that kind of build about him. He's got that kind of striker's movement. Give him enough game time, and I really hope he flourishes, because I'd love to see Gatland Odonka get a proper opportunity at Oxford, because obviously, you know, he's come through the academy. You always want your academy lads to kind of get a proper opportunity. Stefan Negru has gone out on loan to Salford to join Carl Robinson, which is a really interesting one, because Robinson didn't really use Stefan Negru when he was Oxford manager, given he signed him. It was more under Manning that Negru got an opportunity, and a little bit under Des. Look, Negru is a really good young centre-back, but he just needs game time, which I'm hoping is what he's going to get at Salford. We've had James Golding go out to Maidenhead, Josh Johnson go out to Maidenhead, like I mentioned, Jacob Knightbridge go to Braintree. It's looking potential like Jacob Knightbridge will be recalled and sent out somewhere else, because he's not started any games for Braintree so far. But that was Oxford United's transfer window this campaign, and I have to say it was a pretty good one in terms of the what we were expecting. It looks like we've spent around about £2.5 million, which, you know, for a club of our size, just up into the Championship, in the first time after 25 years, is a pretty decent amount of money. Obviously, we started the season really well, performances. Obviously, Norwich, we looked incredible. Coventry, we got battered, but we stuck in there. Blackburn, first half, we looked really good. And then, obviously, after the first 20 minutes against Preston, we really grew into that game and obviously went on to win it. We started the campaign really well. We've added depth. We've added quality. Obviously, another important thing in this transfer window is the fact we kept Cameron Brannigan and Tyler Goodrum, got on signed to a new contract, which is really important for this football club. At the end of the day, this has been a really, really successful transfer window for Oxford United. Des Buckingham, Ed Waldron. Ed Waldron's team have done absolutely magic. And, you know, it's over to the players until January. And then, you know, we might be looking for another striker, might be looking for another centre-back. Depends on how the window looks. Like I said, I reckon Jack Carey will come back from his loan at Leyton Orient, because it looks like Joe Bennett is at least out for the calendar year. He might be out for a little bit longer, so Jack Carey will get recalled, I believe. But like I say, one or two additions might be made in January. But other than that, I think this is for the most part our squad for the season. Let me know your thoughts on Oxford's transfer window in the comments down below, and I'll see you for the next time.